Get Out.
Wait.
No, the movie.
Oh, okay.
Not the request.
I thought that was a demand.
Nope. What did we think of Get Out?
I loved it. I'm sure you loved it too.
I did.
If you don't love it, then we have a problem.
Yeah, exactly. That's the hard part about my position in this discussion here.
Imagine if you're like, you know what? As a white man, I felt excluded.
Yeah, exactly. Why weren't there more like good white people in this movie? I mean, look, it was legitimately one of my favorite movies last year. It was just such, beyond anything else, it was just such a really creative story, told in a really visually interesting way, and in every kind of interesting way. All the performances were great.
The question we have to answer, though, is the Academy going to look at this movie and say, you deserve a very expensive statue?
Right. That's the big question. So what do you think?
I said this earlier in the last video, the post episode. I said it was going to win. But now I'm having second thoughts.
You dialing it back?
Well, I'm not trying to be contrary or anything like that to make this more fun. It's more that I wonder if The Shape of Water is going to be the sort of happy medium between doing the big post, this is a Trump statement movie, or we're gonna do Get Out, which is, about race, first and foremost. The Shape of Water isn't specifically about either of those things, but it's about everything.
Get Out is almost too specifically about one thing to win Best Picture, you think?
Potentially. Well, you have to get in the mind of someone who's not me. A very wealthy person who works in the film industry and has multiple automobiles and multiple homes, and maybe doesn't look at the world the way that I do. That's always a conundrum when you have to make these picks.
I mean, in looking at what the Academy is going to do with it, like historically, horror movies, thrillers, they don't do anything at the Oscars. Silence of the Lambs is basically the only one. It is the only one that you could consider a thriller that has actually won. Other than that, you look at Jaws and The Exorcist and The Sixth Sense, and does Black Swan count? Kind of, not really.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's very Polanski-esque.
Yeah,
thriller
and then there was
stuff.
Fatal Attraction, got nominated back in the day too. So there's not a good track record of thrillers even being nominated, much less winning.
Well, it's also funny,
Right.
And this is, I know Jordan Peele said this is not a comedy. It's not a comedy. It's about very serious issues, but there's a lot of levity in this, from the opening to that great final scene. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who for some reason hasn't seen it. And there's not a lot of history of comedies being successful, save for your Annie Halls of the world and whatnot. So that is against it. But it's the best movie of the year. So if it wins, it should win.
Right.
It absolutely
If
should
it
win.
wins, I will have expected it. When it doesn't win, I will also have expected that. But what else is going to have to happen for it to win?
Okay, so if Get Out is going to win, you have to assume that the Academy voters who want to pick something more traditional are going to be divided between your Dunkirks and your Three Billboards and those sorts of movies. The Post is in that category of this is a traditional Oscar bait movie directed by a white male. It's just kind of this is what.
There's a handful of those. It's between The Post, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk.
Exactly. So if that happens and the vote is divided, if the people who want to make a statement with their choice decide they're all going to get on board with Get Out as opposed to other things, then that's the path for it to win.
It's 30% of the voters vote for Get Out, and then the rest split between all those other traditional looking ones, and they only get 20-something% of the vote. So
yeah, I think that's sort of what happened with Moonlight last year too, that it's just such an outlier and such a sort of unicorn for cinema that everybody who's really charged up about it is going to vote for that.
do you think there's anything to the fact that he's a first-time feature director?
There is something there.
The first-time directors don't often win Best Picture. It happens occasionally, like Dances with Wolves and stuff like that. It happens occasionally. I think there's a sense that hey, this guy's really good. We don't have to give him an award yet because we have his entire career to look forward to. And I think that's also how you end up with some of the awards that end up being pseudo lifetime achievement awards.
You just keep waiting to give the person
and at
their
some
award.
point it's we're stuck giving Denzel a trophy for Training Day.
Yeah, we waited too long.
Yeah, we waited too long.
You know what's a good movie? The Departed.
Yeah,
Let's give
exactly.
Scorsese.
Here you go.
Yeah.
So you've talked yourself out of it. It's not going to win. What does your heart tell
We've
you?
had this conversation now. After all of this, all of the evidence both pro and con. I'm back on board.
You're back on board?
Because of the very reason that I gave. Because of the sort of divided
The split vote theory.
counter programming aspect of it. Yeah. It's like the Democratic National Convention in 1960 or something. Lots of horse trading.
Exactly.
I believe that there's a hat
There's a
and various strips of paper.
there's a hat that talks. They're gonna put the hat on Jordan Peele. Best screenplay. And then everybody's gonna cheer, and then he gets to go sit down at the table and have dinner.
Oh, I hope it's not that.